During Thanksgiving, my aunt stood up and declared, "You're a parasite who leeches off this family's success." I chuckled, served myself more turkey, and said, "Funny, coming from someone living in my property." My cousin sneered, "You think you're so important? You're nothing but a lucky loser." I leaned back, smiled sweetly, and said, "And I'm the Fluke holding the paperwork that owns your future." My uncle muttered, "You think money makes you untouchable? You'll die alone, just like your parents." I didn't flinch. That evening, I liquidated every investment, the accounts they depended on frozen, and the life they mocked me for funding was gone. They thought I'd just walk away. They never imagined the nightmare I'd orchestrated. The golden brown turkey steamed in the center of the table, its skin glistening under the chandelier's glow. The smell of rosemary and butter should have made the room feel warm, inviting. It didn't. We hadn't even passed the cranberry sauce before Aunt Miriam's voice sliced through the air. "You're a parasite who leeches off this family's success." Her words dropped like shards of glass across the table. Knives clinked against plates. Ezra smirked without looking up. Uncle Rowan took a long drag from his whiskey. I swallowed a bite of turkey and let the insult hang there, tasting bitterer than the bird. Then slowly, deliberately, I smiled. "Funny," I said, carving another piece. "Coming from someone living rent-free in my property." Ezra leaned forward, fork dangling from his hand like a weapon. "You think you're so important. You're just a lucky loser, a nobody who happened to inherit." I leaned back, balancing my wine glass between my fingers. "And yet, somehow, this nobody still holds the paperwork that decides whether your future survives or collapses." Rowan grunted, his eyes still glued to his drink. His voice was gravel. "Money doesn't buy respect, boy. You'll die alone, just like your parents did." Silence. Even the tick of the wall clock seemed louder. The knife in my hand trembled not from fear but from the restraint it took to stay calm. My pulse roared, but my face remained still. "My name is Callum Reeve, 24. Orphaned before I even finished college. At family gatherings like this, I'm always the quiet figure at the edge. The afterthought, the one whose presence feels more like obligation than welcome. For years, I've been treated like the charity case who never quite belonged. To them, I wasn't Callum. I was the boy whose parents died too young. The awkward shadow at every Christmas, the invisible wallet they could quietly reach into whenever their lives cracked open. I wasn't angry tonight, not exactly. What I felt was heavier, older, the fatigue of being misunderstood for too long, the ache of being everyone's safety net but never their equal. And for the first time, as Miriam's words still hung in the air like smoke, I realized maybe tonight wasn't going to end like all the others. The family members, Miriam, 61, my father's sister. Widowed young, bitterness calcified into her bones. She claims the house she lives in is hers, but it's the smaller property my parents left me. She's turned gratitude into entitlement, rewriting history until she truly believes I owe her. Rowan, 65, my uncle, a man carved out of rust and alcohol. He worked steel, broke his back for decades, and never forgave my father for going to college and escaping. He hides behind whiskey now, jabbing wounds with words when fists won't do. Ezra, 28, Miriam's golden child, self-styled entrepreneur. Truth, most of his ventures collapsed, but my parents' trust fund kept resurrecting him. He walks with swagger he didn't earn, and every failure of his gets pinned on me for not supporting him enough. Clara, 58, my mother's sister, quiet. She sees me. She knows what I've carried. But silence has been her weapon of survival. She never defends me, because it's safer to fade into the wallpaper than become Miriam's next target. Ezra's fork jabbed through the air like a spear. "Don't act like you've earned any of this. You lucked out because your parents died early. You've coasted on their money ever since." The words slammed against me, but I kept my face calm. "Funny," I murmured. "That money has been paying off your debts. Without me, you'd be knee-deep in collectors." The table rattled as Miriam slapped her palm down. Don't you dare talk to my son that way. He's building something real. You've built nothing. You don't even have a family. You'll never understand sacrifice. Rowan barked a laugh. Sacrifice? Don't make me choke. You've never lifted a finger. You're just a boy with a bank account and a pitiful sob story. For a moment, no one breathed. Their words weren't just insults. They were carefully aimed knives, sharpened to pierce the softest parts of me. And yet, somewhere deep inside, I felt something new. Not weakness, not despair. A slow-burning strength rising from years of swallowed silence. I set my fork down. The clink echoed louder than their insults. You all think I've done nothing, I said, my voice low but steady. Let's remind ourselves. Who paid Miriam's mortgage when she was about to lose her home? Who covered Ezra's failed bar venture, the one you still brag about as if it succeeded? Who paid Rowan's hospital bills when the pension didn't cover a dime? No one spoke. Ezra's smirk faltered. Rowan looked at his glass. Miriam's lips trembled with rage, but no words came. You never asked how I managed, I continued. You just took, and then spat on the hand that held you up. The silence was heavier than any scream. The memory hit like a storm. 19 years old. A lawyer's office that smelled like old wood and stale coffee. My parents gone in a crash that left no goodbyes. Piles of papers I didn't understand. An estate. Properties. A trust fund. All in my name. But not freedom. Chains. I remember staring at a music conservatory acceptance letter in my backpack. My dream. I had one hand on the door to leave for grad school and the other signing documents that sealed me into a different life. I shelved my violin. Sold my spot in the program. Took a night shift at a warehouse. By day, I buried myself in finance books, teaching myself how to manage accounts so Miriam wouldn't lose her home, so Ezra could have another chance, so Rowan wouldn't drown in medical debt. Every sacrifice was quiet. No applause, no gratitude, only their whispers. Parasite, lucky loser, nothing. I leaned forward, my voice steady but cutting. Ezra, remember that $80,000 for your app company, the investor you bragged about at every barbecue? That was me. I made the transfer so you wouldn't look like a beggar. Ezra's face drained of color. You're lying. Am I? Should I show you the account statements? Or do you want me to remind you how you cried the night before, terrified your friends would find out you were broke? Ezra's jaw locked, but he said nothing. I turned to Rowan. Those hospital bills you claimed insurance covered? No, I covered them. Quietly. While you cursed my father's name for being smarter than you. Rowan's hand trembled around his glass. Finally, Miriam. That house you live in, the one you call yours, it never was. You've been squatting in my parents' legacy, in my legacy, and calling me a leech. The color in her face deepened. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Clara whispered, barely audible. Callum, stop. But I wasn't finished. You think I'm lucky? I've carried this family for 5 years. And tonight, I'm done. Miriam's chair screeched back violently. You wouldn't dare. You wouldn't survive without us. I stood, slow, calm. I already did. I've survived every insult, every lie, every cold shoulder. And now, I don't owe you anything. Ezra shoved his plate off the table, shards of porcelain scattering. You can't cut us off. You need us as much as we need you. No, I said softly. I only ever needed family, and you stopped being that a long time ago. Rowan muttered, his voice low and bitter. Ungrateful brat, selfish to the bone. I felt no anger, only clarity. For once it wasn't me unraveling. It was them. I walked toward the door. The hallway light cast a long shadow across the dining room. Behind me, Clara's voice trembled. Callum, wait, please. I should have defended you years ago. I knew the truth. I was a coward. You deserved better. I paused, turned. Her eyes were wet, shimmering in the light. For the first time all evening, someone looked at me not with contempt, but with regret. "It's too late to change the past," I said gently, "but maybe not too late to change the future. That's up to you, not me." I stepped outside. The door clicked shut, softer than expected. The night air wrapped around me, crisp, clean. The stars scattered above, silent witnesses to a boy finally stepping out of his cage. I'd enabled them for too long. I thought sacrifice meant giving until I disappeared. But love doesn't demand erasure. Love demands truth. Tomorrow would not be easy. Ezra might try lawsuits. Miriam would rage. Rowan would drink himself deeper into bitterness. But their chaos was no longer mine to hold. As I walked, I thought of my parents. My mother's laughter, my father's steady hand on my shoulder. What would they want from me? Not chains, not resentment. Freedom. At the corner of the street, I pulled out my phone. For years, I kept a bookmarked tab open, a music program application I once abandoned. My hand shook, but I tapped submit. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't feel like a parasite. I felt alive. If you were in Callum's shoes, would you have walked away or fought to hold the family together? What would you do if the very people you sacrificed everything for turned against you? Tell me in the comments, because stories like this aren't just fiction. They're mirrors of real lives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story struck a chord. And remember, sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the first step toward freedom.